Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Another beautiful evening in Blowing Rock. Thanks for attending this evening. That's what makes our town very special, is seeing all of you all here. And I think that's very important. So thank you so very much from myself, the council, the town manager, and all of our other employees. So thank you. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first off, on the agenda, do we have a motion to approve the, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a second. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as set, which is the budget amendment 2019-09, in addition the 2020 Census Partnership Resolution?
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so be it, it passes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of August 13th, 2019, regular meeting and closed session meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Moving forward. Okay, public comments. If you would like to make public comments, we would ask that you step over here to Hillary and give her your name and address. Would anyone else like to sign up? Okay. Let's see here. I've got Lee, but Kathy crossed out. Now, which do I use here? Lee or Kathy crossed out? Okay, Lee Cohen, and this is in reference to the pickleball, I would presume, in the Blowing Rock Park. Okay, you have, please keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you have 3 minutes. Please hold to that 3 minutes if you would, please. And step up, state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Lee Cohen, 492 Skyland View Drive in Blowing Rock. And on behalf of the pickleball community of Blowing Rock, who are represented here, we'd like to thank the council for your time this evening. This is a pickleball paddle. This is a pickleball, and otherwise known as a wiffle ball. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country and extremely popular with the aging baby boomer generation. Blowing Rock's pickleball community would like the opportunity to work with our mayor, council members, the Department of Recreation to create a better and safer pickleball environment for both residents and visitors. We are proud to have been featured in the High Country Press July issue with an excellent article about pickleball in our town and surrounding communities. A copy has been provided in your packet. We're very thankful and grateful for the recent renovations to the court area's retaining wall, walkway, and new steps. Further fencing between the courts and the walkway is absolutely necessary for the safety of anyone passing through the park. We would like the town of Blowing Rock to consider converting the lower basketball courts to 3 permanent pickleball courts in Memorial Park. This would give Blowing Rock's beautiful park a complete recreational experience: tennis, basketball, and pickleball. We can discuss the safety issues concerning the current situation, such as the heavy portable net duffel bags that have to be dragged and carried by players, many of whom should not be carrying these bags back and forth down the new very steep staircase like me. Permanent nets would completely eliminate this issue. We've included photos in the packet showing what has been accomplished at Land Harbor in the Linville area. With a great pickleball environment, visitors will choose to play in Blowing Rock, shop in our stores, dine in our restaurants. Residents will not have to drive down to Lenore or Land Harbor or Cove Creek, Beach Mountain, for example, to play. There's even a phone app, believe it or not, for finding pickleball in your area. If you're vacationing, which is also included in the package, you can see that. It's not an exaggeration to say pickleball is all the rage, and Blowing Rock can get on board the Pickleball Express. We hope to see you all out on the courts, and thanks again for your time and consideration. I will note, just an addendum, we were playing down at Land Harbor today. They've installed 6, which you'll see, 6 permanent pickleball courts from scratch, and I believe they told me today the cost was about $72,000 for 6 courts from scratch. So all 50 states offer pickleball recreation centers, and there's about 4,000 almost 4,000 daily players of pickleball in the country. So thanks again. Appreciate your time.
Yes, Mr. Young.
You want to replace our basketball courts there with pickleball. You don't,
The lower court.
you wouldn't support hybrids, a hybrid system?
Well, we kind of have that now, where the lines are drawn on the basketball court.
That's not what you said.
Court of the nets.
That isn't what you said. It's not what you said.
He said essentially, Albert, that they would like permanent courts.
Permanent.
Yeah, right now they have the modified courts. What they're trying to do is get permanent courts,
What is a modified?
where they have to carry the nets up and, install the nets.
Well, the question is, I repeat, do you want us to do away with the basketball ability there?
Just the one lower court. There's still a full court basketball up top next to the tennis courts, and just relocating the 2 basketball nets, poles, to the existing basketball on either side. And you'll see anytime you go up there, usually it's a dad and his son just playing basketball. Rarely is the full court basketball ever being used. The lower court, it's hardly ever used.
The 8th graders used it.
The lower court.
They used both courts.
My little grandchildren use it, because the big court's taking up my bigger kids.
Okay, moving forward, we have Ms. Ellen Bray. Ms. Bray, how are you this evening? If you would, step up to the microphone, give your name and address for the record.
Ellen Bray, 225 Rocky Glen Lane. You probably aren't familiar with the fact I am the keeper of the pickleball email list. And you might be surprised to know that I have approximately 120 people on my email list that I email the schedule that we have each week. And then I also have a text list, and that is for people playing in town mainly, but they come from Boone and the surrounding area. And I have 80 people on that list. We started in the beginning of the summer with the 3 courts, and quickly, and we were playing 3 days a week, then we went to 4, then we went to 5, then we went to 6, then we went to 7 days a week that we play pickleball. And we fill up, most of those days, we fill up all 3 courts and have people waiting. So I think there's probably a much larger contingency of pickleball players than you really realize that there are. And we would just like some consideration because we are so many. And as Lee said, one of the considerations would be the permanent nets, and it's all I can do. A pickleball net, it weighs about 25 to 30 pounds in the bag. This is all I can do to get that up the steps. And we have asked the young men that work in the hut if they would please come get it, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, and we feel responsible for the nets, so we'd like to be good stewards. But I just want you to know that that pickleball services a tremendous amount of people in the community.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mike Cantonese. If you would, Mike, state your name, address for the record.
Mike Catanese, 175 Chestnut
Chestnut where?
Drive, Blowing Rock.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think most of this last discussion was what we're kind of asking for here, or what, something for you to consider. This is a few pictures of this is what we've got so far. This is looking toward Main Street, the basketball goal that's there. This is your new walkway, which is fabulous. The reason I'm here, and I've talked to Sean about this too, is, could you go back on that one, Sean? So now you've got a main walkway that comes from the parking deck right through here. We're playing right there. So every time somebody walks through there, we have to stop playing. All three courts stop playing, waiting on somebody to walk through here with a little child or a baby carriage or whatever they're coming down that way. And we just feel like it's a safety issue not to have a fence all the way down that side. The tennis courts are fenced 360 all the way around. Most other courts, racket courts, are fenced all the way around. So we just feel like this is an issue, and we don't know. I mean, I think number one priority for us is going to be asking you to get a fence around this court, preferably all the way around it, but at least that side of this court. Go to the next one there, Sean. This looks great. I mean, it's fabulous. Go back one more time. The yellow lines were placed here last year when you resurfaced this court, the asphalt. And so the yellow lines are the pickleball courts. They put a white stripe all the way around, I guess, for full court basketball, which I've never seen ever played there before. But, this gives you some, go to the next one there. This is looking down at the question that you asked about this. This is the upper court with 2 basketball courts on the end. This is the lower court with 2 basketball courts. We're asking is a possibility to consider the possibility of moving those 2 lower basketball goals to the side of the upper court, so you'll have 4 basketball goals on the upper court. I know there may be reasons, but there's most of the time, what I've observed, 99% of the time, it's 2 or 3 people. It's usually a dad and a child or somebody playing horse on some of the goals. So I think you'd still have all the space to be able to for basketball that you need on the one court. Yeah, the next one there. Keep going.
That appears to be the last one.
Yeah, use go ahead and do that PDF file or that.
Mike, you only got a few seconds.
Few seconds, okay. All right. Quickly, in your package, you're going to find this right here. Our main goal is to get fencing around the court. Safety issues, fences, most paddle courts have fences all the way around them. And the players have to stop every time somebody walks down that court. Our second best thing would be to remove the basketball goals and relocate them to the upper court. We'd have better spacing for our we'd have much more room for our courts. And it's highest and best use for this lower court, and improve the surface of the court if that can be done later on. We were told it was going to be painted at some point in time. You saw pictures of first-class courts. Have them painted for aesthetics, and the spacing would be better, and the permanent nets would be our last choice that we would like to have there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right. Would anybody else like to speak on the pickleball court? Okay. I'm sure that
Could I just add one more thing?
if you make,
I don't know if some of you are thinking that the Boone Rec Center is gonna take care of our problem, but that is gonna be very nice for us in the wintertime, but most of us enjoy playing outdoors whenever we can, and my understanding is they may have one or two pickleball
well,
courts.
that is the Boone Rec Center, that is not Blowing Rock. Okay? Now, moving forward, I'm sure that the council will take this under advisement, and we'll discuss it. And of course, as we all know, right now, we're coming into a time of the year when really not a lot can be done. I don't know what the fencing situation might be. Shane, can you?
We've received one quote at this point. We're waiting on at least two more to be able to compare to see what the price is looking like for fencing along the walkway.
Okay, so, but I'm sure council will take it under advisement, and I'm sure it'll be up for discussion, guys. So, thank you so very much. All right, Miss Gigi Poole. Miss Poole, would you step up to the microphone? Please give your full name and address.
I'm Gigi Poole. I live at 147 Dogwood Lane. And two topics. First and foremost, to thank you for striping Laurel Park Drive. I cannot tell you how many accidents have been avoided because of that. Thank you so very much, especially with the construction down on Laurel Park Drive. So thank you very much for doing that. And I also understand thanks are in order for the progress that you have made towards reopening the Legacy Trail near my house. And I just hope it'll keep moving. And I thank you, but it would impress upon you sooner rather than later if there's anything possible that could happen. And then the other two issues, one was brought up in either May or June when I spoke before about striping on Main Street here at the stoplight that delineates the left-hand turn lane from the straight lane. I think there have been some little markers put in there, but there is no painting. And so people are not doing that. They're pulling up right here and as if it's one lane. They're not pulling in the left-hand turn lane to go down Sunset, and so that doesn't allow those of us who want to go straight on Main Street to go without being impeded. So I think that might be sort of simple. And then in front of the pub, particularly, yellow striping. It's really worn off, the Main Street, just main striping of the street. So I'd appreciate you maybe taking a look at that.
You mean the pub? What
Pub,
Town Tavern?
not Town Tavern, pub. Sixpence, sorry, Sixpence Pub. I just noticed it the last few weeks, and I didn't know if maybe y'all have a long-range plan, but
Shane, would you like to make quick?
Yeah, this DOT owns Main Street, so what's
Okay.
do we know what their schedule is, Shane?
We don't, but like with the 221 area here, very responsive DOT has been, so we'll reach out to them tomorrow and see what they can do to get that striping together.
And
So,
the thing about it, you can go up there any day and sit there and watch, people still pull right up and look at that light and turn right on red also, and that's a big sign right there.
Yeah.
You're not gonna stop everybody completely from going straight there either.
Well, and I know we're in a funny situation because people in Blowing Rock love to make a U-turn on Main Street.
Yeah.
It's the only town I've ever lived in where they do that, but
You're
there
not-
you have it. Thank you.
Gigi, you're not gonna mention the job somebody did on our crosswalk sign now, I assume.
Which one? The one for the Legacy Trail?
You were just talking about.
Yes, oh, that was part of the thanks, and I apologize, that the
No.
pedestrian,
Somebody ran over one of our signs.
oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, no, she's not Legacy Trail. He's talking about on the crosswalk on Main Street.
Yeah, those little,
Somebody mowed it
The
down.
little-
Oh, yes. No, I did
She's talking
notice
about
that,
Legacy Trail.
and I apologize.
Yeah, state law, don't hit the pedestrian. Did you hit that one again?
One in the middle.
Thank you, Gigi. All right, Linda Lassiter. Hi there.
I don't have anything to say, thank you though.
Well, nothing came up?
No.
Okay, thanks for coming, though. Thank you so much.
that was just in case, wasn't it, Lynn?
Let me tell you something. She's being proactive, guys. Let me tell you. Thank you, guys. All right. Rick Parsons. Thanks for coming, Rick. And you just step up, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name's Rick Parsons. I live at 1577 Green Hill Road. I'm not here to talk about pickleball. I want to talk about speeding, and I want to talk about speeding on Green Hill Road. I'd like to thank whomever did it to reduce the speed limit, which had been 35 forever. It was been reduced to 25 over the last year, although I can't tell who actually did this. When I spoke to the acting chief of police, he didn't even know it had been done earlier this year. Nonetheless, it just means people go even faster. It has had no impact, and clearly enforcement will not solve the problem on Green Hill Road. And I'm speaking about from the Parkway to the first curve, specifically between Wonderland and Wonderland Drive. Cars, there was a study done several years ago, I think 4+ years ago, showing hourly cars doing in excess of 50 miles an hour on that stretch. I can assure you that it hasn't changed, and it certainly hasn't changed just because there are 25-mile-per-hour signs there. So I would like you to do something about the speeding. And it's a structural issue that needs to be considered. Everywhere else in this town, you've done a great job at looking at it. I don't see why Green Hill Road should be treated any differently as a residential street. Now, I know there are some issues and questions about what's part of this road the state controls. It's still unclear to me. That has been an argument for many years, but now you stripe the road all the way out to the Parkway, you maintain it, you have 25-mile-per-hour speed limit signs all the way to the Parkway now. So it seems to me that somehow the city, at least inside of the town limits, needs to address the problem that we face daily. And I've spoken to the acting, earlier this year, the acting town manager, the acting police chief at the time. You can't put a car out there all day long. You can start it in the rush hour in the morning and the rush hour in the afternoon, and that will be taking a care, or at least addressing the cut-through traffic. But our good neighbors speed just as badly. Thank you. Hope you'll consider doing something for the residents.
This has been brought up before, and
Is that in the town limits?
Yes, sir.
You're near Heather Ridge Lane.
To the parkway?
Exactly.
almost to the Parkway.
Yeah, they come off at speed from the Parkway, and they'll slow down a little bit at the bottom of the hill where Wonderland.
It's pretty straight where you
I
are.
don't think it is.
That is not, where he's talking about is not town limits.
It's beyond Wonderland Trail.
No,
is what
yeah,
I'm
well,
concerned.
what I'm speaking about is in the 1500 block of Green Hill Road, which is well within the town limits.
That is.
Yeah,
Because Wonderland is not.
that's county.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, John.
To be clear, you're absolutely right. But the problem exists all the way to the first curve, well inside of the town limits. And coming out, as soon as they clear that last curve, the curviest part of Green Hill, then it's a straight shot and they accelerate down to that. It's a blind corner and a bus stop there. You know, something's going to happen. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Those speed
Would you like to step up here and state your name and address, please?
I wanted to mention, sort of, because I think it's helpful for y'all to know what has helped me, because I speed. So I don't mind telling you that it's a problem.
Okay, we have our first offender here.
Oh, God.
Did you bring your husband with you?
No, he'll deny me. But what helps me is I go to Foley every day to see sis. And when you come off the parkway, there's that long stretch that's straight. And what has really helped me, because I've got my mind somewhere else, is this flashing speed thing. I look down and I immediately get with it. I'm older and I appreciate, I will follow the law. But I think that is a huge help for me and maybe somebody else. Thank you.
And it was out there. They put it out earlier this year.
George, are you giving your wife a ride home this evening?
All we have to do is say we're gonna put in new sewers and water.
That'll take care of it.
That'll take care of a lot of things.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. All right, moving forward. All these matters, of course, yes, the council is aware of, and it will be addressed. And Mr. Fox has done a great job, and so thank you for your comments and your concerns. All right, to business matters, public art policy. What is this? Ms. Brown, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Blowing Rock Inn is requesting to install a 72-inch by 20-inch sculpture in their flower bed beside their gazebo. The sculpture is a wood frame that is covered with rusted tin roofing, is in the shape of a triquetra knot. BRAC approved the installation of the sculpture during their September meeting that was held on September 5th. Attached in your packet is the art application, information about the artist and the sculpture, and pictures, and the proposed location of where they would like to install. If you have questions, Melissa and Ray are both here to answer.
And I'm assuming that's permanent, not temporary, correct?
Correct.
Any thoughts, guys?
And
Questions?
if I may, I have three pictures here. One would be of the sculpture itself, and then 2 and 3 would be the location of which they're requesting to place the sculpture. The pictures, I apologize, aren't as clear. That's an up-close picture of the gazebo area looking from Main Street. This is obviously from Main Street, so we are looking to the left of the swing set area. In this area.
It's where the bottles
Bottles
are, yes.
That's correct.
So there's currently a bottle.
Did we approve the bottle art?
You didn't have to.
No.
I like it.
For discussion, I'll make a motion. I don't have any questions.
Doug's made a motion. Do we have?
I'll make a motion that.
Albert's made a second. Any further discussion?
What do you call it now? Say that again slowly.
It was impressive.
That's much easier than what I said.
Write that out in Phoenix.
I'll send you the piece from the artist that tells you all about it.
We have
How tall is 72 inches?
6 feet.
It's not quite 6 feet.
So it's probably the same size as the Sudleth art, right? Next door?
It is in height, but not in.
Not
It is
wide.
real narrow, yeah.
Yeah, and that, so whatever happened, I just have a quick question. We passed I couldn't find on the art policy, you gave that back to us in our packet, what date we passed that? Just recently, I know, but it'd be nice if that was on there. But
Okay.
everything before that is grandfathered in, is that the deal? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it looks about the size, not the width of the piece that's next door at the subject.
All right, we have a first, second on the table. Any further discussion? All right, those all in favor? Those opposed? So be it, passes.
It'll be another attraction for our city. Charge.
All right. Now we have financing for capital items. Ms. Norman, how are you?
Good. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Having received bids and quotes on the FY 2019-20 adopted budget capital vehicles and equipment, we solicited bank bids for financing of the equipment and vehicles. We solicited a 4-year note in the amount up to $300,000 to fund the equipment, and we solicited 9 different area banks for the financing and received 5 bids back, with the lowest being United Community Bank with a rate of 1.82% and no fees on the loan or any prepayment penalty. So we recommend that the financing bid be awarded to United Community at the rate of 1.82%.
Mr. Fox, were you pleased with the selection of the trucks and the utilities and the equipment?
Yes, ma'am. The overall bids of each item came in either at or below what was projected. We had one that was slightly above, but we had several that were slightly below. So in all, overall, the bids came in less than what we had proposed from a budgetary standpoint, with a couple items still outstanding to receive bids on. Overall, from a financing package standpoint, yes, ma'am, I have seen and approve.
Just for the record, we've discussed this, just for the record, Madam Clerk, the Chevy Silverado that was listed for $67,000 is not a pickup truck, is it?
That is correct. It is the 2020 version of the 2019 5500 model.
Is
It's
that
a- it's
the
a-
white unmarked vehicle?
We have not purchased it, but it's a,
Stuff we haven't.
that's correct. So a Chevrolet 5500 would be the equivalent to the Chevrolet Silverado MD, which is a large ton truck, dump truck, snowplow usage vehicle.
Yeah, and also for the record, he did receive multiple bids on each item so that he could make those kinds of decisions, so we have records of that. It wasn't something that we just said, well, let's have a Silverado truck. We'll just get 3 bids on a Silverado truck. So, good job.
Do you need a motion to go with United Community Bank?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. And moving forward, we do not need a motion on this. This is the financial report from Ms. Norman.
All right, so for your financial report, as of August 31st, 2019, this is 17% into fiscal year 1920. 2019 property tax collections are prepaid at this point. The property tax billing went out this week, so we have about $14,809 at the date of this report in prepaid tax collections, which is less than last year due to the tax incentives that were offered for prepayments for last year's taxes. Motor vehicle taxes are collected 1 month in arrears, and we've collected $8,540, or 10% of budget. As of this date, this is consistent with last fiscal year's collections at this point. Sales tax collections are collected 2 months in arrears, and we've not yet collected any, so we'll look for that next month. Building permits total $15,704, or 30% of budget. This is 5% higher than last year at this time. Zoning fees total $1,452, which is 15% of budget. This is 37% below last year, and that's not a very cyclical type of fee, so we just keep an eye on it. Water service charges through one of 6 billings, total $179,595. This is 19% of budget, and this is 9% above budget pace compared to last year. Sewer service fees of the one of 6 billings also totals $145,970. This is also 19% of budget, and about 6% above last year's budget pace at this time. I will say that those two revenue sources tend to change a little bit with adjustments, so we won't be surprised if we do see those change some due to any leak adjustments that there might be. Water connection fees total $4,500 or 23% of budget, while sewer connection fees total $4,500 or 20% of budget. Both of these are slightly higher than last year at this time. Overall expenditures for the general fund are at 13% and 30% also for the water fund. For the general fund, that's consistent with last year, where the water fund expenditures are about 5% higher, but this is still consistent with budget pace expectations at this time. Overall revenues for the general fund are at 3%, which is consistent with last year, while the revenues are at 17%, which is 2% higher than last year. But again, there are water sewer adjustments pending that will change that total somewhat. All departments are in line with budget at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
When a home has a mortgage with an escrow that the bank pays the ad valorem taxes, when do you typically receive those monies?
Typically after the billing goes out is the norm. So we should be getting the majority of those in soon. Those are typically not delinquent taxes, and most of the time they're not prepaids, so.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, moving forward, we have the ad hoc committee update. Kevin Rothrock. Evening, Kevin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to give you an update on the ad hoc committee and the progress we've made. Met July 1st, and at that time established the purpose of the group to develop a vision for Valley Boulevard, and at that time considered expanding the scope to include downtown as well. Then when council met in July, the council confirmed that the ad hoc committee should focus on developing a vision for Valley Boulevard only. Since then, the committee agreed to utilize the services of an urban planner to, 1, capture the community input and consensus, 2, develop a future vision for Valley Boulevard through community involvement and the use of the comprehensive plan, to create graphics and visuals, and to evaluate the current land use code to identify its strengths and also any deficiencies that may hinder the accomplishment of the vision for Valley Boulevard. Staff developed a request for a proposal in August, and that we sent that to 12 planning firms in the southeast United States. We received 3 proposals back by the August 30th deadline. The ad hoc committee evaluated those proposals last Tuesday and selected Benchmark Planning for an interview, and the interview will be held next Monday at 4 o'clock. After that, the council will have an opportunity to review and approve specifics of a consulting services contract prior to final selection, and perhaps that would be at a special meeting. If a consultant is selected, all public visioning workshops will be held in October of this year to gather information from our year-round residents, as well as many seasonal residents as possible. And then currently scheduled final presentation will be presented to Town Council for January 2020. So that's where we are so far, and be glad to answer any questions.
Would you like to expand on the bids we got?
If you want me to.
I think everybody
The
needs
range
to know.
of bids.
Well, the range, there were Benchmark was the lowest, that came in at 20,000. Michael Watkins firm out of Maryland came in at, I think, 33,000, and with some additional fees for, I think, per diem and some travel as well. And then we had another one from Dover Coal and Associates. I think there's another name in that. It was a little bit more. It was about 225,000, I think, or 255,000.
Up to 327.
Two, yeah, that was the low end, so.
Kevin, Benchmark has a history with us, do they not?
They do, yeah, they helped us with the sign ordinance, the comprehensive plan, the conditional zoning ordinance, maybe. They're out of Charlotte. They've also got an office in St. Louis.
I understand that Spike, stepped down, so I'm looking for, that was my, person. I'm looking for another, resident that has, a family that uses 321 like they did to walk the sidewalks, new driver, that kind of usage that would help kind of round out other uses that y'all are looking at, so I'll let y'all know.
That'd be great. He was a real asset, and then I hate to see him. I think he's busy.
Yeah.
I think he's going to college or something. He's got studying, so it's just too much.
Any other questions, guys?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Okay, fine. Moving forward. All right. Well, let's see, official reports and comments. The only thing I have is I did attend the Glen Rock Historical Society meeting this evening, and they have some concerns on the 1888. They would like to, is Jennifer still here? No, okay.
She is.
Is she?
She is.
Hi. Let me reiterate, I had a meeting with the, board meeting with the Blowing Rock Historical Society, and they had questions, reference to the 1888, okay? And,
You talking about the little white building?
yeah, the little white building, because, and and I'll let, they want to know how we're going to cooperate, or how they can cooperate with us, okay, to get things implemented, so on and so forth. So I'll pass that off to Shane, since you have more information on it than I do, thanks to Jennifer, okay? So, any thoughts on that, guys?
Certainly. So as part of the 1920 budget, we did have a placeholder put into the budget for, I believe, structural repairs to the building. McGill and Associates had put together a rough draft or a ballpark quote of what needed to take place from a structural standpoint to the building and the fireplace, which I think is centrally located within the building. Since that time, I've been approached by a member or two, board member or two of the Historical Society asking about additional renovations, perhaps in a porch to be located to the side of the building, along with, and I think some updating to the door placement or
May I say something?
certainly.
Mr. Harwood did some conceptual drawings, did you not?
That's correct.
Okay. And so now, do we have those, or are those in the ownership of the Historical Society? Do we have them?
I have a copy, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to make mention that he did do conceptuals.
But from a town's perspective, we need to have additional meetings to understand the scope of what they're asking, obviously, from a funding standpoint and what that project would look like. I have not seen, I don't believe there's firm quotes that's been given, other than outside of the structural quote that was given.
Well, just for information, we do own the building and the property it's sitting on.
That is correct. That is correct. And so for any project scope that would require renovation to the building, anything that would take place structurally, or anything that would take place with an addition of a porch, anything at all from a construction standpoint would come before the council for approval.
Is that on any historic registry? It's not? Is it on a historic registry in North Carolina, or?
I don't think so. I think it's been marked from the Historical Society, but I don't know.
Not the official historical list, I don't think.
Yeah,
I did.
about the official.
I did understand, they said today, Rita said today that she did have some possible grant money available. And also an unnamed individual that wanted to donate some funding. So,
So
you know as
areas
much
that
as I do.
we're, you know, we set aside that money in the budget mainly because the windows won't open, the doors won't
That's
shut,
right.
all that. But before we look into the rest of what they have asked for, because I've seen those also, that we don't need, we need to, like you said, need to sit down before we start getting anything done and see how much we are going to do.
Can I make a comment about this project? The only thing that I would say is it needs a lot of structural work. And my recommendations to them, my work was solely to conceptualize this side porch and handicap ramp and what that might look like. But in examining that structure, I would highly recommend stabilizing it first before you did any modifications.
Well, that would, that's now left up to our town manager, Parks and Rec director, to get with the parties that could be involved, get bids, and then bring it to us. So,
My impression was that the historical society wanted these changes, but maybe not. They were kind of overlooking the things that were yelling at me that really
yeah, well, and that,
that need attention first.
and that it is, seeing it is town property, and it is our responsibility as a town to make it safe. But I'm sure you'll take care of that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll hold those meetings.
All right, moving forward. Mr. Yance.
I'll have a question of Kevin Rothrock. Rumor mill is that the General Assembly has already passed a big change for zoning beginning in 2021. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And there's a part of that that addresses something called special zoning permit. Is there any idea what that is?
Instead of conditional use permits, they will be called, what did I say? Instead of conditional use permits, they'll all be called special use permits. So that they can distinguish between conditional zoning and conditional use permits and call it conditional zoning or special use permits. That'll be statewide. There's also, in some communities, they have conditional use districts that you get a conditional use zoning and then you come back and get conditional use permits. They're going to do away with all that. Really, it's a simplification process in zoning terms, and that will be statewide.
It goes into effect January 1st,
2021.
21.
Is there any way we can get a look-see at that?
Yes, sir. The whole statute, the bill, session law, I don't know the number. I gave Tim a copy the other day, but there's a session law that's available, and I can forward that to you. Yes, sir.
And is your understanding that that's going to be it?
Yes, sir. This is about 6 or 7 years' worth of work. Select group of attorneys across North Carolina and working with members of the General Assembly on correcting and combining rules from counties and cities, and combining them into a new section called 160D. All of our rules have been under 160A, and the counties have been 153A, I think it is. It's all in a new section of the law. So this was brought to our attention a couple of weeks ago at the zoning conference. Towns all across North Carolina will be making significant changes to be compliant with that section of the statute.
Do you plan to meet with council to bring us all up to date on this?
Be glad to.
Is that the bias of the council? I think you should.
Sure.
Set it up.
Okay.
Thanks.
Ms. Sweetie?
I have a question, Kevin, you're on the hot seat again. Do you have any idea what's going in Doncaster? Because I'm hearing everything.
They haven't, there's been nothing brought to us, no application. Of course, I've heard the same rumor of Jim Line.
Well, on the permits, it says retail to new business, so there's something,
That's what permit they have now for the furniture.
no, for the antique
Antique
thing?
store.
Okay, so they'll have to come again if it's another,
along the same line, with you, anything on the Scotsman or the Tanner building?
Talking with the people that have the properties under contract. On
The, update on Apple Cart is the ridership really dropped points since we lost Heifer schedules. It was 138 last month, but we're only operating 1 day a week now. So I have talked with Craig, and we have set up well, we hadn't set a firm date, but we are setting up a meeting with Tracy Brown, Mr. Fox, and myself to see if we can't drag, if we do approve it for next year, if the council does, to see what we can drag a little more out of them, a little more length of time, going a little bit longer, giving us a little bit more leverage to, if we have a special event like Concert on the Lawn, being able to change the route later on in the evening to running by Concert on the Lawn, Symphony, and whenever we have special events, to being able to add those as a add-on. Anyway, we're working on that, and I wanted to thank Aaron for moving those poles down there to motorcycle parking. Since he has done that, now the motorcyclists know they can park there, and on the weekends, I've been taking pictures to show and sending to the town manager. Now that they know they can park there, they are using it, so I do thank him for taking the post away, and I'm hoping during the off-season, I would like to see us blacken that out, because it's still very confusing with the way that is drawn up. So they do use it when they know that they can, and it's nice to see those spaces taken versus a parking space when they can.
Do we still have the app on the town? At one point, we were trying to get a motorcycle app where they would know where they could park. Is that on our website? Because I couldn't find it.
I couldn't.
On the app?
We had talked about that, and I don't know what happened. I think that was with Mr. Evans, this last thing.
Well, Doug, sounds like it's a work in progress, but I think, you can say, I think, this year has been more successful than last.
Oh, yeah,
With the shuttle.
with the shuttle.
Doug, to move ahead, if it looks like it is successful, I wonder what it would be like to analyze the current kinds of costs and the ones that are going to be upcoming against having our own, what is that break point?
Right.
The ridership, how many stops, et cetera. It may be 2 or 3 or 5 years down the road, but when we see that ridership up, and we say, no more contracts, this is something that we ought to either get somebody who's in
Well,
that
my
business.
dream is I would love for somebody to come in and take it over.
Yeah, yeah.
Completely in the town, get out of that.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just, I think it's us trying to offer a service plus using it as a way to negate some of our parking issues of getting them to use leave their cars at the motels and come downtown
Yeah.
and ride shuttles.
Good.
Ms. Bowden?
I was looking over the, Kevin's information. You get a lollipop after this meeting.
If we ever have a meeting.
I'm thinking that, and I've mentioned this to Shane, Mr. Fox before, and I'd like to, y'all's input. I don't know, if there's a process, and maybe you've already found out the answer to this. We, with our, valuation system, when a house sells, maybe the person bought it 12 years ago for $250,000, and let's say it sold yesterday for $781,000. The county doesn't, there's a process where the county changes the tax value, why do we have to wait on the county? Is what I'm wondering, and, I think you started looking into this, but, since we do have town and county taxes, I'm wondering if we can get that ball rolling, or do we have to wait on the county?
Legally, in North Carolina, there's 100 counties and 100 tax assessors. And so legally, the tax assessors are only operating within the county, within each one of the counties in North Carolina. So municipalities aren't allowed by law in North Carolina under General Assembly law to assess value. And so we are dependent on the county to reassess value. I will say that since we've talked, I have met with the county tax assessor and discussed a more frequent update as properties are being sold. And I believe he has been here in the last week or two. I remember seeing him come in and meet with Mrs. Hubner to talk through some property evaluations and revals. So hopefully that's making some headway with that process.
Okay. The other thing I had a question is, Chief here?
Aaron? Chief Miller?
Chief Miller, are you there?
Yes.
Hey, Chief. I think, this might not have been on your report because it just happened, but you know when we have the Blue Ridge runners?
The Blue Ridge Relay.
Yeah, how do we help them with that? It is, you know, they're just kind of floating along and they're a little glow in the dark and alongside 321. And how does that work?
They have never asked for any assistance from the town or from the police department, so we typically don't do anything to assist them. They're very spread out over several hours.
It's 2 days or 3 days, right?
I think they're only blowing rock one day for a period of about 3 hours, I think it is.
Okay.
Something like that. But they're very spread out over a 3-hour period. But they ask for assistance. We don't provide any special accommodations for them.
They're only here afternoon to early evening.
Yeah, it's dark. I noticed them and it was very, I have young new drivers that don't expect there to be somebody running along the side of 321 and I didn't know if they ever asked for, you know, should we run on the road or should we run on the side of the road or any kind of guidance
I
or?
saw a little of both this last time.
Yeah.
I saw some runners on the sidewalk, and I saw
Well-
some runners in the street. But
Okay,
I see that every day, even when there's not a special event like the Blue Ridge Relays. But, no, we don't provide any special accommodation.
okay, all right. And then I guess my last question was for Matt.
He's
Is he here?
He is?
Hey. Thanks for the report. Do you have a list of like when you're trimming right of ways and what neighborhood is left and next or everything so we can tell people, well, you're coming up and I saw you just did Laurel Lane and all of that up
Yeah,
there.
it's kind of as we have the manpower to do it, we don't
Yeah.
have a set schedule. We can definitely get one and get that out. But as kind of in the past, as we have enough manpower, enough people to send a crew out to do that, we just go and knock it out.
Is there a place on the, website where people can write down that they need that done?
There's not a place for a request. We normally handle that internally, but we
Okay.
could look into something similar
Yeah,
to
because I
that. That's
thought
an
there
option.
was about roads and potholes. Maybe that's just DOT.
That's DOT. That's not internally, not the town.
So I know there's been sections, when we've done projects, people can kind of communicate with the guild, I believe, through, questions or concerns. I don't think we have anything set up directly with the town like that.
We don't. We can look into it, absolutely.
That might help your thing.
And then the last thing, I didn't know if we ever came up with the intern's map of what was smoked and not smoked. Did we ever come up with that information? Remember the intern that was here?
That was
And
inclusive,
Has that
wasn't
been
it?
found?
The study, the scope of the study was from a billing perspective versus a location perspective. And so what we anticipated from a location ability, I believe, was indeed used from a billing perspective. And so the information was somewhat inconclusive from what the original scope was intended to be, I believe.
Because we were gonna look at, okay, well, what are the possibly a neighborhood, the next neighborhood to connect to sewer or,
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at what he came up with, and I know,
maybe that's something for January, if you can find it, and, because I remember we were looking, down Laurel
Right.
Lane and up on Chestnut, and maybe that wasn't the area that needed it next, maybe it was a different area, I don't know what information you came up.
I know Sharon Green, I don't know if Hillary said that, she had a pretty good list of where we had smoked. I think Tony does have it. There is a list of areas we have smoked and addresses that did not smoke, so we can go back and compare that to the billing side of it and see what ways will make sense for that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I just didn't wanna let that.
Sure. No, not at all.
Not, follow up with it. That's my question.
Mr. Mosley, how are you?
Good. How are
See you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Couple more things if I may, please, sir. Sorry.
Okay.
Both of them I think are kind of important. One is, I'd like for the manager to, maybe explain a little more on our discussion about the don't cross, some of the prices you had found out.
Yes, from Main and Sunset.
Right. That, and then also, Benny's here, and I kind of consider him like one of us. I'd like to say that Doug's firm was recognized at the COG banquet, so congratulations, Doug.
And Doug was there after playing golf for a day or two, I believe, so that was good to see him that evening.
Recognized for what?
The crossing, Sunset, I believe beginning in the April timeframe, the council had, and perhaps the mayor and the council had reached out to DOT to obtain a quote of what pedestrian signage would look like for Sunset in Maine. Similar to what we have in other places with just the pedestal pole itself, not the actual black mast arm stoplight pole like we have at Valley and Sunset, but just the pedestrian or the pedestal pole pedestrian crossing. The quote for that would be in the $15,000 to $18,000 range for those crossing pedestals. If you were to go to a full-fledged black mast arm stoplight, similar to what's at Valley and Sunset, it's $150,000 to $200,000 is the estimate that's been given by the DOT. And so those are the two options. If we choose an option, those would be the two options that we've looked into and worked with the DOT to receive. So a $15,000 to $18,000 option, which is the pedestal only pedestrian crossing signage, and then if you go to the full-fledged stoplight black mast arm poles with the pedestrian signage built in, it's between $150,000 and $200,000 if we would like for them to proceed with further specifications. That quote would get a little closer.
The small post would work in conjunction with the lights as.
Yes.
When
They would
say
wire.
walk and when, right.
Absolutely. Now, that does not include burying those lines. Those lines would come from the top of the pedestal up to the stoplights themselves.
Right.
And so it's additional cost if we wanted to bury the lines themselves from the top of the pedestal.
The 150,000.
Isn't that their property? Isn't that their property?
No,
All those are ours?
it's our responsibility.
Why would that be?
Why would that be?
It is owned by the DOT, but if we are requesting of them to provide that service, that's not something, what we have currently is what they are providing. If we would like additional services, which is including the pedestrian signage, that would be the additional cost.
Is that two arms?
So they're not interested in public safety? Is that what you're telling me?
Not inside the city limits.
Not inside the city limits?
Just in the corridor.
Boy, that's terrific news.
Well, if I may say something, okay, I threw this in Shane's lap. Right at, second day you were here. And, they came back with that quote for just the don't walk signage, lighted signage. And then Shane said, well, let's look at the black mast arms. Since we're doing Sunset, what better time to do it complete to Main? And that's where Shane went forward from there, getting additional information.
We had no way of knowing the cost until we asked, and so they went through the process of putting together. They came out and did the specifications, and the quote recently in the last 7 days has come back between $150,000 and $200,000.
Well, I just mainly ask that so you can throw it out for FYI for
Yes.
everyone to consider. But thanks a lot for doing that.
Certainly.
All's in your part.
Sure. Thank you very much. 3 updates. One, our fire department this past week sent a 5-person swiftwater rescue team down to Kinston. From there, they were moved to Onslow County and Jacksonville, and were prepared to take on any missions that were thrown their way with the hurricane. Great to say, lucky to say, not a mission was requested of our group, or I believe any group in Onslow County and Jacksonville. So good news is we sent a 5-person team there, and they were prepared to perhaps be called to duty from a mission standpoint. Good news is that the hurricane had a little more glancing blow in that area, and so we did not entail a mission within that. But we did have a 5-person team there from Blowing Rock Fire and Rescue. 2 other things. One, Sunset Drive, a quick update from a construction standpoint. The main water line and main sewer lines are now complete. Service taps have begun this week going into the residents and the businesses along Sunset. So great news is the main lines are complete. That was the most time-consuming of the project. If you're out there tomorrow, you will see 4 groups, 4 different teams working along Sunset, which is a tremendous progress, or tremendous efficient progress. With those 4 teams, you have 2 teams putting in taps, one at the east and one at the west end of Sunset, and you have 2 other groups, one essentially doing demolition of the sidewalk and the curb and the gutter and the stormwater, the drainage that's there, and a second one putting back down the concrete. And so if you're out anytime tomorrow or going forward, you'll see 4 teams out on Sunset working simultaneously. And so that's a tremendous update with that project. Still on pace at this point to be finished at the end of November. And so we're looking forward to that date, obviously. And the last, if you've had a chance to be on Valley Boulevard and you've been able to go slow enough to see all of the flags and the paintings and the things that are out there, some of that, 2 things. One, some of that is Spectrum pulling line, which was a wonderful thing that will finally be removed, hopefully when they're finished, from the AT&T owned poles. The second, if you've seen a large contingency of individuals out there from the town, from Piedmont, and from the DOT, over the last several weeks, the DOT, the town of Blowing Rock, and Piedmont Landscaping have been working together almost on a daily basis for the upcoming plantings that will be going in, not only on the side of Valley and the replacement of the trees that have obviously died since they were planted in May, but also within the median. And so there's been a tremendous effort by all 3 parties to work together and coordinate the upcoming plantings that should start taking place, you will see, within the next few days. And so tremendous effort by all 3 entities to work together and to stay on top of what's going next and have the ability from a town's perspective to obviously long-term wise to be ahead of the need and the maintenance that could be there. So again, very thankful for the DOT working with the town over the last few weeks with that project. So that's my update.
So you're confirming, it appears, that Marine Corps and Camp Lejeune did not need rescue?
Did not. They did not. We were on standby. We were on standby.
Oh, it's just the Navy.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
I heard they sent people up from Bragg to help
We've been from Norfolk. From Norfolk.
Any other comments, guys? Any other issues?
Make a motion to.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming this evening.